Hi guys, I'm Jeff. I'm the winemaker for Tractorless Vineyard, and talking about sparkling today. Well, Mother's Day is coming up, so it's important to get your mum something special, and a Tractorless sparkling is a great thing to get her, but not many people know how we make sparkling. So today I'm going to show you a little bit about the process of sparkling. So one of the important things of sparkling is we talk about the quality of the bubbles. And when we're talking about the quality of the bubbles, we talk about the bead and the mousse. And the bead is the size of the bubbles. So imagine a San Pellegrino, it's got like nice little small bubbles compared to like a soda water that has those big chunky bubbles. So we would say San Pellegrino has really good bead. If you pour a bottle or a glass of sparkling, you know, sometimes you get around the rim of your glass these bubbles that hang on the edge of the glass. Well, that means the bubble's stronger. So the longer they hang there, the stronger the bubbles. The stronger the bubbles, the more better, or the higher quality we say the mousse is. So if we want something to have good bead and good mousse, it means we have very small, solid bubbles. So how do we get this? Well, it's a little bit similar to beer really, because when we get a really good head on a beer, it's because of the protein in the beer. So when we're making the champagne, it's exactly the same. It's the protein in the champagne. So the more protein we get in the champagne, the smaller the bubbles, the stronger the bubbles, the better the bead, the better mousse, the higher quality the final champagne is. So to get this protein, what we need to do is we need to leave the wine sitting with the dead yeast for a long period of time. So the longer we leave it, the more the yeast breaks down. The more the yeast breaks down, the more protein we get. So, and this is one of the challenges. So if you don't know about sparkling, what we do is we harvest the grapes really nice and early. We then ferment them dry. We clean them, we filter the wine, we clean the wine, we make a blend up for many years usually. So you'll notice that a lot of sparkling wines are NV or non-vintage, and that's because we use different years to come up with a blend. And that's because different years have different qualities. We're trying to create this, I guess, layers and layers and layers of complexity. So there's things that you just can't make. So aging a wine creates flavors and characters that we just can't recreate. And so we need to make those, I guess, we need to get those flavors from different years. So once we come up with this base blend, what we do then is we back add some juice. So it's sweet again. We start it fermenting a second time and we put it into a bottle. And we put it into one of these bottles, champagne bottle or sparkling bottle, and we put one of the crown seals on top like that. And to call a wine method traditional or method champenois, it must, every single individual bottle must go into its own bottle. So it can't go into a tank and be fermented in a tank and then transferred in a bottle or anything like that. It must be fermented in its own bottle. The second thing is it must stay in that bottle after the fermentation finishes for a minimum of 12 months. So what's happening in that bottle? We're going through the secondary fermentation. That sugar from the juice, it converts to a little bit of alcohol, not much, probably about maybe 0.5%, and it converts to carbon dioxide. And if we use one of these crown seals and trap the carbon dioxide in the bottle, that's how we get our sparkles in it. So then we sit it in that bottle for a minimum of 12 months, longer and longer. So here we've got some of our NV sparkling. For our NV sparkling, it spends about 3 years in the bottle. And that gives us a little bit of protein, gives us nice bead, gives us nice mousse. So the next process, and I'll just see if I can flip my camera around. Okay, so you'll see, what you'll see here is, not sure if you can, there you go. You'll see in that bottle, it's full of yeast. So somehow we need to clean that bottle up so that we can make it into the final wine. So what we do is we give that bottle a really good shake. And so we get all that yeast mixed up throughout the bottle. And we put it on this board here, which is called a riddling rack. And it holds the bottles at a little bit of an angle. And you'll see there we've got all the bottles at an angle. And what we do, probably every day for about 2 weeks, is I'll get one of these bottles and we just give it a little bit of a turn like that. And you'll see, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, you can sort of see that I've got just a little bit of a chalk mark here so I know where my rotation is. And we do that process for about, it probably takes about 10 to 14 days. And after 10 to 14 days, you'll see we end up with a crystal clear wine. If I can hold it right, you'll see that's a crystal clear wine. You can sort of see it in that bottle there. And all that yeast has ended up in the cap, right at the end there. So then what we do is we take this bottle carefully and we take it over to here. And this is my great little $300 Audi freezer. And we put these bottles in the freezer. And if you look in there, right down the bottom, there's some minus 20 degree liquid. And I'm just sitting probably the bottom, 5 centimeters in that liquid. And you'll see after it sits there in a while, I've got my clear wine on top, and then I've got a frozen plug down the bottom, and in that frozen plug is where all the yeast is. So then what I do, I put it in this machine, and I basically use the pressure that's in that bottle to blast out that cap. So what I've done now is taken off that crown seal and removed all that yeast, and what I'm left with underneath is that crystal clear wine. Now, the problem with that is we've actually lost probably about 20 to 30 mil of our wine. And so we need to top that up with something. So that process where we're settling down all the yeast is called riddling. This process where we're blowing out that dead yeast or that frozen yeast is called disgorging. And the next process is what we call dosage. And that's, we get one of these, although you can use this machine, but I managed to break this machine. So we're using this today. And what we do is we've lost that 20 mil. So I'm going to take, it's actually 25 mil. I've already measured it. 25 mil of what we call a dosage. And then we carefully add that back to the wine. Nice and carefully, because we don't want it to fizz up. Now, this dosage is probably about 5%, if not less, of the final volume of the wine. But it can, it can have a big difference to our final flavors. And so for our ZD or zero dosage, we don't add a single thing. So that's all sulfur free. It's I guess it's the purest form of sparkling wine. Our next level is our NV Sparkles. For our NV Sparkles, we have some old sparkling wine that we keep in a barrel. So really nice and oaky. And we use about 25 mil of that wine, plus some sulfur to top up the bottle. And that's what we've just done here. Now the next thing is somehow we've got to keep all that sparkle or all that carbon dioxide in that bottle, and that's where the cork comes in. So what we do is we put it on this little machine here. It just sits in. Get one of our corks. Sits in there, and you'll see, if I line up the camera correctly, the cork just sits in there, and what happens is it squeezes it, and then we push it in. And there you have our final, well, not almost our final product in the end. So the next thing is that there's still a huge amount of pressure in that bottle. So somehow we need to make sure that that cork's not going to blow up if we shake it or bang it. And that's what those wires are for. So the next thing is we've got to put on one of these wires. And you'll just see, this is going to be an interesting exercise because I actually need 2 hands for this. So you'll see there, and then if I line it up, and then we do 3 turns. And there you go. So there's our final NV sparkles. So guys,